Hey everyone, it's Charlie Morgan and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through a framework that I've developed that is probably the best and single most viable strategy that I've ever found for handling objections on sales calls. Objections are the biggest bottleneck for every salesperson. I don't care what anyone says. Like, anyone can ask questions on a discovery call and pitch a service, but pretty much no one can handle objections to the point where they can actually change someone's mind and get someone to have their paradigm and belief system and confidence levels to align with theirs. It's a very useful skill to have, and it's one that people seriously lack. And there's a reason for this, right? It's a difficult thing to do. There's a lot of, in our agency training program, we've literally got I think two to 3 hour videos on objection handling in every single intricacy. But what I want to do today is to provide you with a framework that I've developed, and I've probably done about 1,500 discovery calls at this point. Full 45 to 60 minute phone calls with business owners selling high ticket services, retainers and consulting packages. And I probably signed about 500 clients. Got a 30% conversion rate if I average it out over my lifetime. And that's all from cold traffic, right? That's all from, I'm just gonna move my camera over here a minute. That's all from from businesses that had no idea who we were before the call. And it's kind of interesting. How do you do that on a one call close? And so what I want to do in today's video is give you the framework that I've developed to actually make that happen from an objection handling perspective. Now, the first thing to understand about objections is that they are almost never what they seem, right? And this is the biggest thing that trips people up. So I'm gonna hop into Miro on my whiteboard software in a second and explain in visual format how we look at this, because it's so fucking helpful. And I'm really excited to share it with you because it's gonna completely change the game for you for objection handling. But before I do that, the main principle to understand here is that an objection is never what it seems to be. And objections are smoke screens for a lack of certainty. Pretty much every objection translates to, I don't have the confidence that you can do what you say you can do, or I don't think that what you're charging is conducive to the value which I will receive from what I purchase. Those are the two things that every objection translates into. I don't care if they say I haven't got time or to do what you're doing. I don't care if they say they need to speak to their wife. I don't care if they say I want to think about it. Any of these things, they all translate to, I don't have the confidence that you can do what you say you can do, right? And that's not a personal attack. It's just the truth. It's just that they're too afraid to say that and articulate it because they don't want to upset you or cause conflict, which is quite a common thing. And all you have to do is get on a sales call with someone who doesn't have a very good service and figure out that's exactly what you will do. So I'm in the habit at the moment of accepting discovery calls from people who say they can help my agency get more clients. And I'm always open to it. I never judge a salesperson for their grind. So I'll be on the call and then they'll do the question, they'll do the process, which I sort of understand, but I'll answer it diligently. And then I'll get to the end of the call and I'll have no confidence that they can deliver what they say they can deliver, because they're just, it's sort of apparent. They don't have the confidence. They haven't kept clients for longer than 3 months. It's pretty obvious. Then you know what to look for. And so what I notice is I don't want to buy from them because I don't believe in what they're selling. I don't have the confidence it can deliver for me. But what I've noticed after doing 10 of these calls, just out of curiosity for other people's sales processes, is I find it really uncomfortable to say to people, look Charlie, or look John, or look Steve, or look Sarah, I'm not going to buy from you today, and that's because you haven't demonstrated enough confidence in what you're selling. I don't believe you, and I think you're lying to me, which is basically what I'm saying, but I don't say that because it's a horrible thing to say. It's not horrible, it feels horrible to say, but it's a form of feedback that is quintessential to someone's development, and so perhaps I should say it. But instead it manifests itself as me saying, oh yeah, I'll think about it, or let me talk to my business partner. I know that the answer is no, and I know there's no fucking way on earth that I'm buying this stupid thing that this person's selling. But I struggle to sort of say, oh yeah, I don't want to buy it because I think it sucks, right? And so you'll find this is the case if you hop on a sales call with someone. And I don't care what it is, if you're buying a new car, or if you're going to buy a agency training program, or if you're going to buy anything, right? Do this and you'll notice that a lack of confidence will manifest its way into a lie, basically. It's kind of cool to see. So what I want to do today is introduce you to the framework that I've used to overcome these objections and instill more confidence and certainty into your prospects on these sales calls. It is the most important skill you can have as a salesperson by a mile. It's the hardest one to learn. It's the most painful one to learn and actually put into practice. But if you can do it, and if you can understand what I'm about to tell you, you will fucking fly. And there's no objection on earth that will stop you, right? So the framework is underpinned by a principle that I've taken from Albert Einstein's approach to science, right? You might wonder, what the fuck? How does that have anything to do with this? But it does, trust me. So I think it was Einstein or Newton, one of these scientists, that was recruited as saying 90% or 99% of problem solving is problem definition, okay? And what they're basically saying, Einstein or Newton, whoever it was, they're basically saying that in order to solve a problem, all you really have to do is define it, because we probably know the solution to the problem, but we can't see the problem. We're deluded, we're blind, right? We can't actually understand what it is we're trying to fix and achieve. And the same is true for objections. 90%, 99% of objection handling, or conquering as we call it in our program, is just objection definition, figuring out what the fuck the person's actually objecting to. And we know that they're always objecting to a lack of confidence, regardless of what they say or what lie they spin for you. But it's really important that you figure out like what's underpinning this lack of confidence, because then you can find the thread of the objection and just unravel it and pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. And then it will unravel this little tiny doubt the prospect has that's been completely magnified and blown up in their consciousness that's completely irrelevant to what you're selling and your situation. So it's a really interesting thing to understand, and I'm going to give you the framework to root out these objections, because all we need to do is define what the damn objection is, get really fucking clear on what's holding the person back, and then we can attack it. The problem you have right now is people are saying to you, Charlie, I want to think about it. And your rebuttal is something along the lines of, oh, what do you need to think about? Or, oh, well, listen, we have this incentive-based pricing thing. Or, oh, well, we don't need to think about it, let's just do it. One of these it's not stupid. I take that back, because it's the most logical answer, but it's also the wrong answer, because we know that I need to think about it, or I need to speak to my wife, or blah, 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 translates to a lack of confidence. And so what we need to do is drill down to figure out why this need to think about it is coming about. And so, yeah, gonna hop into my computer now, explain this to you. If you're still here watching this, I commend you, because most people have really shitty attention spans when it comes to this stuff. And if you finish this video and you watch it 1,500 times, that's an exaggeration. For some reason, my consciousness has carried through how many discovery calls I've done into that example. It's a really interesting thing the brain does with numbers, but besides the point, complete tangent. If you go through and watch this video, it might not click with you. But if you go through and watch it again, they'll start to click, and then again and again and again. And you want to do what I've done with a lot of videos on YouTube that have been really helpful, is you find something, you find a problem you've got, which could be objection handling, or for me, for example, it was non-binary thinking, which is a topic for another day. And I found this awesome video on it, and I've literally watched it about 100 times. And it's just completely ingrained into my life, and I fixed that problem. And people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. So I'm giving you this sort of forewarning here with this video. If you find it useful and your objection handling is weak and you're struggling, this is the thing that you need. And I encourage you to watch it over and over and over and over and over and over again until it's ingrained in you and it's basically part of your existence. So I'm going to hop into my laptop here and get onto Miro and basically explain how to do this. And I couldn't be more excited, because like sales is a fucking art form. I love it, and I want to introduce it to you. So I'll see you in there. All right, people, so we are in the laptop on Loom, and I thought I would pull up the quote, which I totally butchered. But this is the premise of the idea that I have, right, in how I've applied this to objection handling. So it was Einstein. I was accurate with the actual scientist, but he basically says that if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. So what this basically translates to, and what he's saying here, and what I've deduced from this quote, is that if you have an hour to solve a problem, you want to spend the majority of your time defining what the problem actually is and looking at it through different angles and different models and different scopes. And then the last little bit of time you've got is when you actually think about how you solve it. Because if you don't know what you're solving, then you're probably not going to solve it, right? And this is the sort of authority that I wanted to underpin today's video with, because a lot of people will just give you ideas and they haven't really got any logical base or critical thinking to support them. And so let's hop in here, right? So here is the model and the visual cue that I've basically developed. And I've taught this to a lot of our agency clients and it works really well for them. So here's how I want you to sort of see this thing, right? And I need to click on this. Okay, so objections have layers. Objections are like onions. You can peel them back to get to the middle and the core of the problem. You can use any metaphor here. The metaphor I usually use with clients is that objections are like those Russian dolls you get. You might know what I'm talking about here. If I hop into here, you know these ones, right? You've got 1, 2, 3, and the irony with this is that it truly is the case that this is what objections look like, because at the beginning it looks really big and scary, like something you could never unpack or something you could never open up and figure out what's going on. But then when you figure out what's underneath it, there's another thing, and then you're like, oh, what? It isn't as big, but it's still scary, and it's still these things are fucking terrifying if you ask me. But besides the point, you get into the second doll and it's still big, and you're like, okay, well, what's inside of this doll? And it's still big, and then you get to the bottom of this little cute one on the right, when it really isn't scary at all. And it's okay, so interesting metaphor for you there, but here's how it works, right? So at the top, we have the objection. Okay, so let's just take the objection of I need to think about it, right? I want to think about it. This is the objection. Now, you'll probably have heard this before in your sales calls, right? And it's a bit of a bitch because you're going to be like, oh, fuck, okay, you need to think about it. So what you're then going to do is you're basically going to start thinking, how can I get this person so that they don't think about it? So you might basically ask the question, which is quite an interesting one, what do you need to think about, right? And then blah, 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 right? What do you think about, question mark, and then they'll basically say, oh, I just need to think about it, or they won't really give you an answer. So what we need to do here is we need to understand that this objection, this line, which is what's standing in the way of you getting the deal, is fundamentally complex, and it's underpinned by things that you cannot see and the things that the prospect doesn't even know they have a problem with yet. And so what we need to do is what I call drilling, right? Objection drilling, basically. And what we want to do is find our way to the bedrock. This is an interesting idea. It's going to unravel. So what we need to do is we need to drill down. And we need to drill down with a question here. So when the prospect has an objection, any objection, I don't care what it is, you need to say to the prospect, Mr. Prospect, when someone says that to me, it's usually because of one of three things. They either lack confidence in me and my company and what we represent. They lack confidence in themselves and their ability to implement what I'm telling them to do. Or, and usually most commonly, there's something to do with the system that we operate and run that you don't understand or that you don't actually have full confidence in. Out of those three things, me, you, and the system, what do you think it is that you're lacking confidence in and that you're not quite certain about yet? And that's what you do. You ask that question, right? It's a really good framework. And what this does is they'll then basically define the problem at a top level. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the system. Sometimes they'll just say, oh, it's me. Sometimes they'll say, oh, it's you. But it's rare that this is the case if you do calls properly. And so let's just go with the example of system, as that will be most common. But you can apply the same principle here to all these other ones. And so what you want to do now is once they say, oh, I think it's the system, and then they'll sort of give you some sort of vague answer like, I still don't quite understand what it is you do or how it works or something like that, which is a sign that you're being too vague. Like when you're pitching people, you want to find a non-binary dichotomy balance between being too vague and giving enough information so they have an idea as to what they're buying, but not enough of an idea to get paralyzed with the information you're providing them. It's a big, difficult thing to do. But we now know the problem is the system. So they don't need to think about it. They just don't quite understand what they're buying, or they understand it, but they don't have the confidence it's going to work. And so what we need to do now is we need to drill again. Okay? Because if we try and handle the objection with something like, oh, don't worry about our system, it's great at this level, it's still not their objection. It's better to try and attack the objection from this level than this level, but you still won't really get very far because it's not why they're objecting. And so we need to drill down again. And we need to say, okay, Mr. Prospect, so this is where your knowledge of your product comes in, but you can ask an open-ended question or you can ask a multiple choice question at this point. So you've got open or you've got multiple choice, right? So like with open-ended, you can be like, okay, I totally understand, John, and I'm glad we're getting to the bottom of this. So you've said that you lack confidence in our system, you don't quite understand what it is we do. What specifically, what things or what thing, say things plural because it might be more than one, what specific things are you lacking confidence in or you don't quite understand about what we do? Or if you know your product really well and you know why this objection usually manifests, which you won't until you've done the open-ended question about 100 times, so fucking write that off for now. Or with multiple choice, and what I'm able to do with our businesses, because we've done so many sales calls, is I'll be able to predict that 90% of the time, because of how many open-ended questions I've asked, their objection will be to do with lead quality, lead quantity, or something else like different. And that's usually one lead quality or quantity, and then it's something else that they'll need to explain. And you give them multiple choice, or is it something else? And then you always route back around to open-ended. So when you're using multiple choice questions in this level of your objection handling, you always have like one option is always other, because otherwise you're going to put words into their mouth that they don't think they have, and then they won't think there's a problem, and then there's a problem. So you have like option 1, option 2, option 3, and then other. This is a multiple choice question here, me, you on the system, but we can use this because it's universal, and we need to get specific to drill down to this next point. Okay? So you'll see how this is unraveling. So we asked the multiple choice question or the open-ended question, like, okay, let's get specific, Adrian. So you've talked about lack of confidence in the system. I am totally empathizing with that, and I'm really glad you brought it up because it gives me the opportunity to introduce different models, what you're lacking confidence in. And so what will then happen is when we get specific about this, is they will say something along the lines of, it could be like, Charlie, the thing that I'm really uncertain about and that I'm worried about is whether or not the lead quality will be good. Okay, so we've got the problem. Awesome, right? Lead quality. Okay, and so at this point, we can try and handle the objection and be like, okay, cool, here's why it's not a problem. But we still don't stop there. We apply the same fucking model. Again, I know I keep swearing in this video, but it's a point that I must drill home with. I want the language that I'm using to have some sort of imperative measure to it so you actually do the damn thing. We drill down again, once again with open or closed questions. Sorry, not closed, multiple choice or open. And so like, you're probably going to be using open questions because you won't know what the problem is. But with lead quality in the gym space and all the calls I've done, I know that it comes down to one of two things. Prospects don't show up or prospects don't have the money. Sometimes it's that they don't have the motivation. So what I would then do is if John said to me, Charlie, I'm just lacking confidence in the lead quality you can produce. I said, John, I get that. Awesome. Thank you for that. When someone says that, it's usually because the prospects they've had previously don't have the money, or the prospects don't have the motivation to purchase, or the prospects don't even show up in the first place. Out of those three things, where's your main concern lying? Or it might be all three of them. What is it, John? And then he'll tell you, and then he'll be like, oh, like it's just because like they won't have the money. And now we have hit what I call down here the money. This is objection bedrock. Okay. So important to understand the simple model. So now what we've done here is we just take some time. It takes 5 to 10 minutes of detailed conversation and good questioning. And now what we can realize is that the prospects need to think about it was basically like it's a smoke screen. Because the thing is as well, is until we drill down and actually bring some order to chaos and get clear on what the problem is, the prospect won't know what they're lacking confidence in. And so we have to ask this line of questioning to actually get to the bottom of what the hell is going on. And so like they want to think about it because they don't lack confidence in what you do, but they're too afraid to tell you because they don't want to upset you or cause conflict. Simple. Or it's usually actually a mirror of their discomfort of someone making them uncomfortable with their product, but story for another day. And so what we do is we ask them a question, is it you, me, or the system? It's almost always the system. And so now we've established that they lack confidence in the system. Okay? So their objection is no longer, I want to think about it. We know it's a problem with the system. They don't have the confidence. And then we drill down and we're like, well, what about the system is it you're having a problem with? We give them choices, or we leave it open so they can explain and articulate themselves, which is a powerful thing to have them do. And then they tell us the general problem with the system. It could be lead quality, it could be lead quantity, it could be bad experiences in the past with previous agencies. It could be like a specific testimonial on your website that rubbed them up the wrong way. We don't know until we ask, right? And so after that, we then proceed to say, okay, well, what is it about that testimonial? Or what is it about the lead quality? And then they tell us it's actually just to do with the fact that all the agencies we've used before, we've got leads in the door, we've got leads in lots of quantity, but we never, ever find they have any money. And so the biggest objection I have, the reason I'm not buying from you, Charlie, and they won't say this, but this is basically what they're saying. The reason I'm not buying from you, Charlie, is not because I need to think about it, not because I have a lack of confidence in your system, well it is, but I have that lack of confidence because I don't think the lead quality will be good because I have a bad past experience. Now we have an objection to attack. And now we can think about it. Okay, pun not intended. Now is the time where we actually overcome the objection, and the small amount of time we have to do this in is pretty straightforward. And so let me give you the model that I would use to overcome this, and it's very, very, very straightforward. So the first thing is that, like, when you are building your product and developing your service, you need to sort of develop it with objections in mind, because prospects know what the hell's going on. And like, if you haven't got something in your service or offer that directly counters the big objections your prospects will create and curate on the call, then you're fucked, right? But you need to be prepared for these things, okay? So here, I'm not just going to sort of say to the prospect, oh, don't worry about that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of map this out for you, actually. Let's scroll down a bit here. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, I'm going to use a framework. Okay. And so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to, praise. Praise and empathize. Right? So I'm going to say, John, thank you so much for that. I'm really glad you shared this with me. And I empathise with your situation. I know how horrible it is to talk to prospects who are not qualified and waste all your time. It's fucking horrible, isn't it? A resounding yes will come from this statement, right? Yes, it's horrible. I know how difficult it is. That's why I'm objecting to it. Number 2. Okay. Not acceptance statement. This is a really powerful thing that I use in sales, and I developed it after like 1,000 calls. It works really well. So then what we do is we say, John, I will simply not have this. I will not let this objection stand in the way of us working together. It's an outcome that I cannot let happen because it doesn't need to stand in the way, because it's not a problem. The reason why, and then that's number 3. Okay, so reason. So we say, John, I simply cannot let this happen. If we don't move forward today because of the problem, of the belief you have that the prospects won't have the money, I have fundamentally done a bad thing. I've done wrong by you by not signing you, because I've got something here that actually solves this problem directly, and we've directly attacked and solved this issue for all of our clients, and it's not a problem. And I want to share with you why it's not a problem. Is that okay with you? Right? And so we go for permission, and then we give a reason. Okay? And so what you then do, and this is where it's up to you to sort of have a good product, basically, because all you need to overcome objections is a good product. And so then you sort of just explain like the system that you have to make sure prospects have money. So like, for example, in the gym space, like, we'll talk about qualification, right? Qualification forms. We'll talk about targeting top 1% zip codes. Right? So, John, listen, the reason this is not a problem and the reason this is not going to stand in the way today, you don't even enter their frame of entertaining the idea that they're not going to move forward. You assume they're going to move forward, and that all you need to do is introduce them to the reasons that you can provide for them to actually move forward. And it's really simple. And so it's not a problem, John, because we've got so many ways of overcoming this, because it's exactly the thing that stood in the way of so many clients getting results. And so we attacked it until we solved it. And this is exactly why I want to work with you, because what we're going to do, John, every single lead that you receive from us is going to go through a 5-step qualification form. They're going to receive a call from us to validate they're a real person and they have financial investment to actually buy from you and buy your membership. We're also going to go ahead and only target people that are in certain zip codes of your area, so we know they are of above average and median household income, so that it's impossible for you to receive a lead that doesn't at least make like 100 grand a year. And we're also going to give your sales team the best price objection handling techniques you've ever seen in your life, and it will completely change the game for you, and you'll be able to sign pretty much anyone, anywhere on your membership without the objection of price. Those 3 things we've developed proprietarily for all of our clients, and they work incredibly well, and you won't have to worry about that money thing. Then you shut up, and then they'll be like, okay, and then you sort of round it off. Like, can you see now why this is not a problem? And then they'll say yes, because you've given them reasons. Reason-respecting tendency is a cognitive bias in psychology. And if you just say to people, oh, don't worry about this, or it's fine, we've got you, that can work sometimes, but backing it up with like 2 or 3 solid reasons is really fucking helpful. And so to overcome objections, it really is just about how good your product is, right? Conveniently, I've drawn that in like a scaling angle. But like, this is what you need to do for every objection. So this is just one objection. John might have like 4 or 5 of these. And so he'll be like, oh, the problem's money, and then you'll do this, and you'll sort of attack the objection, and you'll tick it off, and you'll beat it. And then he'll be like, okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from. That does make a lot of sense, but I still just think I need a bit of time. And then you just go through the same process over and over again. And you say to them, John, do you need a bit of time because the money problem still exists? And then he'll say, no, because you've overcome that, and you tick that off, right? And then what you do instead is you say, okay, so let's go back through that process because I'm so keen to work with you. Where are we at now? So it was still on the system, right? You're still lacking confidence. There's something to do with the system. Yeah, I still am. Okay, you go back through it. It's all you have to do over and over again. And in the program, we call this objection looping, where like you just want to sort of like loop around, and every time you sort of loop around, you basically just build more and more confidence in the prospect, and all you have to do is just tick off a certain amount of objections, and then you'll close the deal and you'll make more money than you can fucking imagine. It's a difficult thing to do. Actually, no, it's not difficult to do. It's difficult to know to do this naturally without having someone to tell you to do it like I've just done here. Okay? So this is basically my framework for handling objections, and I'm going to label this the Imperium framework. And what we're going to do is we're going to call it the Imperium Bedrock framework. Imperium Objection Bedrock framework. That's what we'll call it. Okay? So that is the Imperium Objection Bedrock framework, okay? And it's really important you know how to do this, because I don't care how many calls you book, I don't care how many positive replies you get, I don't care how many emails you send, how many LinkedIn connection requests you send, I don't care how good your product is, I don't care how good you are at asking questions on calls, I don't care how good you are at pitching. If you cannot overcome objections and you cannot change people's minds and get them to share your confidence and give them specific, logical, concise reasons to buy from you, you will not win and you will not make any money. And this video could be one of the most useful things, not from the perspective of my narcissism, but my knowledge. I'm just sharing with you what's worked for me and has helped me close over 500 high ticket deals at 6 to 10 grand consulting deals and 1.5 to 3k a month retainer deals repeatedly over and over again without any issue. Works fucking well. Okay, so that is everything for today's video. I hope you found it useful. Now, a couple of quick things. If you want to, you can subscribe to this channel, because it means that you'll probably see more videos like this that might add some value to your life. I'd also love for you to hit that like button, because when you like the video, it helps me, but more importantly, it actually helps you, because it tells YouTube's algorithm that you're interested in content like this, and then YouTube's algorithm will use that knowledge to show you more content like this. And so if you want to build like what I call a content flywheel or a feedback loop of value, then all you have to do is just like videos that actually add value and dislike videos that you know that you like but are bad for you. So like stupid 4-minute cat videos or something. Also comment if you've got any video requests or anything you want to add to this. By all means, drop it in the comments below. And there will also be a link in today's video and it will take you through to a Facebook group. Okay, so I'm not sure what I'm going to name this Facebook group yet, and like, we're building a Facebook group for Imperium Agency. The purpose of that group is obviously to get you to join our program and sell you things, but I'll be very transparent in my intentions there. If you're watching this and you're an agency owner and you've got a problem with client acquisition, I have no shame in trying to get you on board for a program that helps you solve that, because we solve it very fucking well. But at the same time, that group will be very valuable for you. We're going to call it, I don't know what we're going to call it, like the Imperium Agency Club or something, but our intention is to build a thriving community of agency owners, and we're all going to help everybody solve problems. And I'll probably post extra videos in there. We've got loads of resources from our training program that will be posted in there, and it'll be very value driven. But our intention with that group is to give you so much stuff for free that's so damn useful that you feel like buying our product is the only logical step for you to take in your agency, because of how many problems we help you solve and how much money we help you make with the free videos. That's our strategy. I'll be transparent with you. I'm not going to send you through to some bullshit webinar or some bullshit case study funnel that just pisses you off. I'm going to be honest with you and very transparent. So go ahead and join that group. Probably won't be very big at the time of me recording this, so don't be afraid to be one of the first people in there. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.